see it too. Put it on. You sit on top. You sit on. Oh, they want to see it. Wait. Shortly, when we get the multiple warrant, we're going to start. I'm going to invite Martin to come forward. Not to offend anyone, folks. It's there to liberate us.
Very warm welcome to you. Hari mai. Well, so thank you for that. Welcome to your house. And I didn't wear the chains for obvious reasons. I think you might know who I am. This building, this wonderful building, it belongs to you today. And it's good to see it's not an angry rates meeting or foothills and players meeting from the White Angry Rates. I can't tell you how pleased I am to see a full house of smiling faces. It's a change. Local government. I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to welcome John Kamiheri, son of the West, you might say. John, welcome and thank you. And to Warwick, thank you, Warwick, for bringing us together as family of men with men's issues. Thank you for that. And thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you on picking this kind of autumnish day to be here in Waitaki, to be here part of what I think is going to be a terrific day. This is a men's issue summit. It's about issues that affect us. And, the West really has got something quite special. This is the home of Man Alive. And this magnificent group, it's a truly wonderful group, has brought together issues that matter in our lives. And if the West could grow anything, it could grow the men's issues in this country. And I believe we are making terrific progress here in the West. And I've been there for 13 years, and I think there's not a year that I haven't gone to a men's dinner. I've not gone to cheer them on, to award men for doing the right things, the positive things that matter. And mentoring young men. I take 2 young guys every year around with me because I want them to both be the mayors in the future. And there's a couple of women I do that with too. And I take them around to show them what I do. And then in between times, I just mentor them in anything they want. And I was mentored by 2 men. Both have died, one at 84, one at 93. And I can't tell you how much that mattered to me. That everything that I am and can be, my visions all came from the mentoring of older men that seized my younger life and transformed it, I guess. Most of them came from Kari Surf Club. And that was the kind of thing that I look back and acknowledge with huge respect. And I see Warwick doing that to all of us here, bringing us together to hear our issues and to really start us on a process and a vision, I guess, and that is hugely important. I'd like to acknowledge the other sponsors of today, the sponsors of the New Zealand Father and Child Society, Massey University Centre for Public Policy Evaluation, New Zealand Violence Prevention Association, the New Zealand Family Research Trust, AUT, and my own council here, which has supported this from day one. I think this grew out of a week day or a couple of days that Warwick and I had with Rex down at our batch at Kaliko, where on the raging West Coast we talked and walked the beach. lit fires and just talked about what we could do. And out of Warwick's mind came this conference. And I think that this is the challenge that we have in Aotearoa, to able to negotiate the future and negotiate it well for men and for men's issues. And I think we can do that. I think it's really possible. I think we make mistakes, of course we do, but we're able to recognise that, and we're able to recognise and go on. As I said, this is, I think, a definitive milestone in the growth of the men's movement, and I think that's important. I'd like to acknowledge Felix Donnelly, because about 25 years ago, a group of us met at the Auckland University over a winter of 6 weeks, and Felix Donnelly brought young men together, and I think he actually transformed our lives at that time. And I think he started, if you like, the men's movement in this country. It was a milestone for me, because I think that men can challenge, push, expect more from themselves. And we'll all do better, and we need to do better. And we can only do better if we're guided, and we're often guided by other men. We need to do better, I know, by ourselves, but it's great if we can be supported. We need to do better by women, and we need to be supported in that too. And we need to do better by our children for the future of this country. And there are some real lessons to be learned, I think. We have, in Waitakere, absolutely decided to work against domestic violence. And it has been really tough. When I became the mayor, I decided that we really put a lot of effort into that, and working with the courts and the police. Hamilton, I think, had done it really well. But we decided we would try. It's a very difficult hurdle. But I guess that along the way, we actually have been able to see some light. It's a dim light, but we've actually been able to do it. And we've been doing that now for 13 years. I was shocked the other week to realise when the ACC came and gave us some figures about accidents on the road. And I guess the old Wild West has actually gone. Young men don't seem to be craning their cars every Saturday night, wrapping themselves around lampposts and in ditches on the PR road. But they certainly are killing themselves in the West. And I was shattered to find that the Waitakere rate is 38% here in Waitakere. And it's stunning and it's shocking. And I think we've got to be, we're not doing something right with our young men out here. That's 5% higher than motor vehicles. And so it just seems to me that the stats from ACC don't drill down into the 38% to identify age or gender. However, I suggest a high proportionate percentage is young men. And that's unforgiving. And I have to say, we're now going to really seriously embark on that, because I can't believe that this society, this city, which has done so much in social issues, in sustainability, in doing everything with the environment and conservation, can let that go by. I think also I'd like to just touch on where we are with fathers. I think that 25 years ago, when I attended the Felix Donnelly range of workshops, we really started to come to grips with that. And I guess that we realised that we were young men, all with, I have 5 kids, and I think I probably had about 3 by then, that I was trying to look at what we were doing with fathers and sons. And we were the first generation, I guess, that was absolutely dealing with parenting. Our fathers and our grandfathers never touched our children. They were always dealt with women, who put them firstly in those silly prams and then into push chairs, and then fathers had gone off, the kids grew up. We were the first generation to actually do something with our kids. And that, I think, I praised the backpack, because in some ways it was kind of malish to stick your child in a backpack. And you didn't want to hold the child, you wanted to put him on, and then her rode on your shoulders. And you took that child to rugby games, you took them to the surf clubs, the beaches. We were the first to lift our child up and actually proudly carry that child. And I was very keen to do something for other men, and I wrote a book. And I found an old dog-eared copy. I wrote it with with another guy called Tom Scott, who he's got 11 kids, so he knew a little bit about kids. This book sold 20,000 copies, considering that the Prime Minister's book only sold 15. The All Blacks sold 40. But I thought it was pretty good to actually have a book that told men how to deal with fathering. And Tom and I kind of both got $1 each, so it wasn't too bad. And we took our kids off on holidays. We carted them away, thanks to Tom Nearby, in a package fare. But it did something. To me, it was the beginning of talking about how to address the whole range of things with your children, from safety to sexuality to their education and their understanding of you as a father, you as a parent, and you as a man. I didn't know a hell of a lot about women in those days. I still don't, I can tell you. But I did understand a lot about how men addressed the issues of other men and children. And it was kind of the first generation, I guess, that really came to grips with that. And to come to grips with what I think is leadership. And leadership that you can pass on to kids. Leadership in terms of relationships. And we made time, the first generation that made time for our children. We actually gave them quality time. And we told other men who weren't doing that to spend that time. And if we took them off to the lumber yards at the weekend to buy timber for the deck, it was a part of the treat of them and you. And we started, I think, for the first time in this country, I'm talking the 70s and the 80s, to take pride in our children. And I really think it was the first time, and I see a lot of young men here, we became friends with our kids. And our kids became friends with us. And I don't know if it's just about the genius of New Zealand men, because I actually believe in New Zealand men. But we were able to still be red-blooded, John, and blokey, John. But we were able to do that. And we did it with some kind of pride. I think that's giving our children the equipment they needed for life. And it's also getting them involved in life. And from that, I think, around us, started to swirl the men's movement. And to me, that was enlightening. It was just amazing that suddenly men were being valued for being men. Well, I think the pendulum started to swing a little back the other way. And I've always tried to balance it. I've always tried to balance it here in local government. When I went to the first local government conferences, I remember it was totally dominated by old and very tired old men. And there were hardly any young men. And there was hardly any Māori. And there was certainly no women. And in the last 10 years, that has changed absolutely to the betterment of all. The balance is there. And that's what I think is one of the greatest kind of powers that we have in local government. We're able to really reach out. And we were able to deal with our critics and I guess experts in many things and say, this is the way we want this country to be. Because it's really not retreating into research, but understanding that there's little time in our lives as things have gone so fast. And all of you here in this room must appreciate that things are just going so damn fast that there's hardly time to evaluate and understand the issues that we need. And that's why these days are so important. Too little agreement is seeing the problems and where they lie and where are those problems. And we need actually to discuss those situations. All of us, I believe, are storehouses of almost centuries of men's knowledge and men's understanding. And we often are not given the opportunity to offload those things. They're instinctive, they matter, they come from the heart, they come from the soul, and I think they come from us. And we've got to be able to have those forums, have the forums to discuss what we believe. And I guess we've got to also be angry about things. We've got to be able to say, this isn't working. It isn't working for us. It's not working for us as men. It's not working for our sons. It's not working for society. And I all know that we blame a lot of women for some of our failings. And I think that has got to change. We've got to understand where those issues are and where they are with us. And if the balance is moving, we've got to redress those balances. And I believe this country has to redress those balances. And men have got to stand proud. We've got to stand for what we are, who we are, and what we believe in. We've got to be able to pass on these visions. I think that we must continue to include women in our plans to address the education and social challenges that face men and boys. I know Fraser Bruce, who's done so much work with young boys and tried to lift up their self-esteem, their pride. It's so important that we can reach into schools and give young boys the life that they deserve. Few people do that. But we're a little shy of that too. We're a little wary of that. And we shouldn't be. We should be able to pass on to young men their future and to really mentor them collectively as a society. And that's what we're not doing. We had a marvellous speaker the other day, a woman, Awa Hudson, who used to be Tim Chadwell's deputy mayor. And she's retired from Massey. And she said, here in my Tapari, where we have a large percentage, of course, of Māori Pacific people, there was no Māori teachers. And so those children are often lost at the time that they need it the most, because they don't have a mentoring which they need. And I think that shattered the conference that we were talking about, that this was the reality of the West. We always felt that that was balanced. It isn't balanced. It's very unbalanced. And so I think we've got to address those issues. Where is the mentoring? Who's got the guts to mentor? Who's got the courage to say, I'm taking this group and I'm going to do it with safety and with a dream that they will be better? If I'm finding young people to try and train them to be the mayor, God knows why they wanted, I have to say. You've got to be able to take people into life, to bring them into life. And I guess we are pretty lucky to be able to be here, to be able to share our lives with each other, our wisdom. But I do want to address, just going back to women, we must see women, I think, as allies and not enemies. Women are, in many ways, I think, our teammates in the game of healthy parenting and the creation of the healthy society. They are not in opposition, and we must try to stop playing the end of the game. These are just some notes I made, because I thought men, I think, have often been strangled and struggled, I think, to come to grips with relationships. And I see that. I see that in the city. And I know that John has certainly talked on some of those issues. And this, when I do Anzac Day, I realised that this city, like all cities, gave so much of their young men. So many. I mean, this last Anzac Day, I thought of this meeting today, and I think it was it seems like 2 years ago, it was like 2 weeks ago, where you do 5 Anzac Days, and you just hear those names, and you hear of Gallipoli, and if you wander there, you see row after row of 17, 18-year-old men, and you think, what would this country be if we had them, if we hadn't lost them? What would we have been? Where would this society have been? And I feel very passionate about those lost men, because not only did we lose those, we lost something that can never be replaced. Maybe we have to add the gaps that were lost with those dazzling lives. So that's quite important to us, and it goes way beyond the blokeism that we talk of. It goes way beyond who we are right now to acknowledge those parts. So I think there's much that we can do better to lift our game. We can still be staunch, but let's be staunch about the right things. We can still be tough, but let's get toughness in the right perspective. We need to be tough, and I think we need to be quite staunch as men, but we need to be tough about violence, child abuse, and self-respect. We need to stand firm and tall for the forward view of what is truly honourable and what is decent in society. And we need not to be emotionally repressed. We need to be strong parents, and we need to be strong men. I believe, you can be dynamic, you can be an intelligent guy who contributes to society, and I insist that men take part in society, take part in the community. I make them do it. I reckon in the West, as John will know, you can get anybody to do anything if you ask them, but you get nobody to do anything if you tell them. So the fact is, if you ask men to take part, you can create space for them, and you can give them jobs, and you can cheer them on. And that's what we've been doing. So I think we should let show New Zealand and the world that a bunch of really healthy Kiwi blokes can do. And we want to add this in the speech. We want John to put the front bums on the back bums where they belong. And so, welcome to the summit. I had to put it in, John, but my secretary said, don't you put it in, because John doesn't punch it. But I wanted to say, we believe in you, and we believe in you. And if I'm greeting you, haere mai, whiki mai, haere mai, taki mai, it's because I really want you to take part. I want you to take part with everything you've got, all your past, all your present, and all your future. I welcome you to the summit, which I'm sure will identify the strategic ways forward, that you can take another step towards a new and desirable breed of ourselves. Nothing more, nothing less, ourselves. So men, fathers, brothers, sons and lovers, I think we can do it. And we can only do it if we share it with each other. Kia ora to you all. Thank you. Harvey has a rule, you're not allowed to have the words on your sleeve. If you don't do the words here, out the door. Kia ora, everyone.
Kia ora, Bob. Thank you very much for your Kia ora, Wally, and thank you very much for your welcome here today. If we hadn't had the invitation to come here today from Bob and yourselves, I don't think this would have taken place because it was really a challenge. Bob said, listen, we'll provide venue. And that was too much to turn down. Thank you very much for your welcome. So I acknowledge this building here that we're meeting in. I acknowledge the people of West Auckland, Tauta Whenua, Kawarau, Ngāti Kātua, and I acknowledge also the Dalmatian, Serbian, Croatian settlers who came to this country and did so much work creating horticulture out here. I'm proud to be associated with this city. I love this city. I love the people here. And if there's something, I'm proud to be a Westie actually. It's very blushy, but I'm proud of the creativity that happens in our hills up there with the artists, the writers. I'm proud of our community here. I've worked in networks here. And there's something about the West Auckland community where government will often trial projects out here because of the integration of the community. Thank you very much for your welcome. Also want to welcome and acknowledge Bob's challenge with respect to the purpose of the day. I think there's been damage to Manatane, and we need to be looking for restoring our respect in ourselves, and healing the damage so that we as men can stand good and proud. So that's the issue of the day. Thank you. So, would you just give me come on up here, Sol. Sol's our songster. We're just going to have a little response to you. Well, we'll go straight up. Briefly, as part of my role as coordinator for the day, I guess welcome you. It's so good for me to see faces that I have met from right around this country. Some of you have come from a long way, bottom of the South Island, top of the North Island. Welcome to this day and the common cause. I'm aware also of a great deal of experience in this room, and we'll try and create occasions for you to share some of that experience through the day. The speakers that we have here today are men who have been working a long time in the area and who know their issues. They've been chosen for that rather than for, say, somebody from a university who's coming from just solely an academic perspective. They're on the ground people who know men. They know a lot of the pain. They know a lot of the healing that's going on. You have a timetable in your folders, and I was also challenged today, and that somebody said, "Oh, well, you know, what about gay men? You haven't got them on your schedule." And also, there's a question of Christian men as well. I mention those two because those also are two strong men's movements in this country, and I want to acknowledge them. They've both been very active. I haven't included gay speakers here today, or Christian speakers, but I know some men here today, okay, and some men are Christian. So welcome to you too. I am, I guess, really trying to make this a wee bit of a bloke's day, because I think gay men are way ahead actually in terms of their awareness and in terms of the services that they're generating for themselves. I think they've had to be. And Christian men have a strong movement in Promise Keepers and so on. I think I'm trying to create a voice here for guys who might not normally have a voice. I invite you to participate with this sense of concern and support for men. I very much welcome the women here today. Good on you for coming. You might have thought twice about it. Value your comments. It's good to have a mirror. I invite you to draw threads today. A lot of these issues have been around for a while. Draw threads, and at the end of the day, we'll start pulling those threads together. Bob thanked the sponsors. I particularly want to mention AUT and Waikakeru City Council, who put in financial resources as well. Look for a good day, and it's possible that we may pull the findings of the proceedings together in a book. We're looking at that issue.